Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and I have the opportunity today to try and share with you problem diagnosis and maybe even repair this reel. So Ryan sent this reel in. This is an earlier Ambassadeur 5500C, made in Sweden. Sent it in. It's missing the spool adjuster cap. As a result, it kind of performs poorly. And I was able to find a local parts shop that has the cap, replacement cap. So we'll put that back on, and then we'll find out if that fixes the issue, or well, if there's something more that's struggling along with this. Well, yeah, we have a little bit of a tightness here. Now I'm wondering on this one, because that cap was missing, I'm wondering if somehow along the way that spool got injured. So we're going to take this reel apart. We'll do a little bit more of the diagnosis, and well, we'll see if we can get this one fishing again. To start, I'm going to remove the exterior pieces. That includes the tie-down cap and the little clip that holds it on. And with the screw and the clip gone, we can go ahead and remove the cap now. Well, that's the wrong one, but the cap is loose, so we can turn that off by hand. And underneath this, there is a C-clip that holds the post for the bridge to the gear sleeve. That's the main gear. And we're going to try and see if we can't just pry that off. Be careful with these. These are spring clips. They do tend to shoot if you're not careful. So that's the clip we're referring to. And when I take my pieces and parts off, I put them into a parts tray. I try to organize them by the assembly that they came out of. That way, when I go to reinstall, I can get them back together again relatively easily. We'll take the handle off, put that into the tray. And while I'm doing this, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That will help you see the videos that I'm posting, and that'll help you to make an assessment as to whether that's a video you want to watch. Well, I'm over on this side now. We have that adjuster here. It's out, and it looks like this star adjuster is hitting that. So I'm wondering if we may have a worn drag in here as well that's causing everything to be tight. We'll find out. So when you go to do your analysis and try and figure out what's going on in the reel and how to correct the problem, you always want to start with sub-assemblies. So the first thing that was almost obvious was, okay, we're missing this adjuster cap over here. Let's go there first. Now I'm noticing we have the adjuster cap on this side, and it's bumping. Now the two-sided ones are early Abu reels. After a while, they eliminated this side and just replaced it with a bearing. But this allows you to move the spool left and right to center that spool. And right now, that spool is not centered. So you would back off to one side, tighten down on the other side. With that done, then we'll come inside here. We'll remove the 3 side plate screws. And what I'm trying to hope for here is that the issue is something maybe broken in the inside, that like a line or something that's causing that. And well, we'll take a look and we'll see. Okay, with that off, give it a spin, see if it turns easily. This should have brakes on it. Doesn't. It's been a while, I guess. This one seems to be turning okay. So again, it may be an issue with that spool being out of alignment. We're going to pull that off, and I think we just found the issue here. The issue is we're missing a side plate bearing. Wow, that makes that easy enough, doesn't it? I guess when somebody popped this off, they popped the bearing out. Didn't even notice that. Silly me. Well, I think we might be lucky here. I think I have the bearing for that. You can probably look at my arm while I kind of take a look, but I do remember buying a small series of bearings, and it may just be that we get lucky with this one. First we'll test it to see if it fits on the spool. It does. And we'll test to see if it fits inside the carrier. And I think it does. I'm not sure. Kind of hard to see. Well, that might fix it right there, because the piece that was making that out of round feeling may very well have been the issue. Let's see what we can do with that now. Well, it certainly makes the turn easier. All right, let's go over to the main side. We'll see if that fixed the problem, or if there's another problem going on. You just don't want to think, okay, I got it, and then start reassembling the whole reel, only to find out, well, you really didn't get it. So let's keep going here. One of the issues seems to be this is over tightened as well. So take your time. Don't force anything on these old reels. If you do, you're probably going to wind up regretting it at some point. Take this side off. Now we can remove the side plate to take a visual inspection of the inside of this. Well, this is what I expected to see. It's clean. There's some dirt on there, but it's nothing that is unusual. What is unusual is here's one of those breaks we were talking about. How that break wound up in here is beyond me, and I would say that if it wasn't the one part, it would be this part, because your spool is coming against that. It's rubbing in on the adjuster here, and that's probably why the adjuster was proud, but that belongs over here on the stem. It's one of two. I don't know where the other one is. We better take a look. But I think we've got two issues that kind of look associated that should fix the problem. Well, let's take a real quick trip here. We'll go ahead and do a quick service on this one, and we'll come back and we'll test it. So those of you just wondering about what the fix is, you can skip ahead. I'm going to use my micro pliers here to remove the two springs that are holding the trip levers. And be careful if you do use a pliers. These springs are just a single coil on the end here. If you're not careful, you can kind of bend them out of shape. Let's pull that whole stack out, because we want to get underneath here. I'm going to use some penetrating oil here as a degreaser, and I'm going to use a cotton swab to just mop up here. If there was a reason why this was performing poorly due to old greases and oils and the like, well, that's what we're trying to solve for here. I don't use the penetrating oil as a lubricant. I only use it as a degreaser. Okay, well, one of the springs fell off, and you'll notice one's got a big loop, the other's got the small loop, and it's the big loop that goes over this post here. It reminds me to tell you to take pictures as you work on your reels. That way, if, well, something like that happens, you have the reference point. Okay, we should be good there. I'm going to go ahead and push this down, see if I can't pull that pinion gear out. If you can't get it out by pushing down, just use that screwdriver to come through. Now notice when you did this, there's two grooves here. They're going to fit in the forks on the pinion gear here. What I wanted it out for, I wanted to inspect it, make sure that all the teeth were okay, because the problem that we're trying to rectify here is a little bit of that too. It's a little bit of, if a tooth was bent, that could cause a similar issue with the reel. I didn't see it. I'm going to put some grease onto the teeth. I'm using fishing reel grease. I only recommend fishing reel grease. In this case, I happen to be using Penn Precision reel grease. The slot on that pinion gear goes in. The white of the plastic goes up. The two sides fall in that slot on the carrier. And then if you like, you can pull that screwdriver out and release. And that's your set. Now, if there was something that was jamming up in here, you can take this spring off and you can take this assembly off. There's a pin right here inside the spring that can be pushed out from this side. You would push it that way, and you can remove that assembly to get underneath. In this case, it's not needed. All right, we've greased the pinion gear. This side can go back on. This is one of the 2 trip levers. They have a double trip on these. Just going to grab the band. Remember, that's only a single piece of wire, so be careful with that one. And now let's go over just to check the main gear. This one's got that odd tie down kind of a thing. It's got the click inside the cap. It's got the click here, and it's got the drag washer underneath. So we'll just go ahead and take a look at this drag washer while I have it. Probably easier to just and this washer looks to be in good condition. It's not torn, it's not particularly hardened. I am going to take a little bit of fishing reel grease. This is dry grease. It's Cal's Universal Dry Grease. You don't need the dry grease. You can use fishing reel grease on that. Just going to lubricate it a little bit to try and keep it fresh. Go ahead and put that back in. It's a tight fit. It's leather, so what's happened over time is it's pressed out a little bit. That's why it's a little bit of a tight fit there. Make sure that your cap is clean because you want a smooth fit for the drag washer. And then around the back, this is the traditional forked anti-reverse dog. Once you've done that, go ahead and put the grease onto the main shaft. Bring your main gear over. Align your dog with the post. And then once the dog starts to seat on the post, the whole assembly can come down and merge with your pinion gear. Well, I wanted to leave that spring on this side off that because that little collar on that spring sits on this post, and it oftentimes makes it difficult to get that dog back on. So I chose to leave that off. Now we'll try and put that back on the same way we put the other side back on. I grab it, work it around. Grabbed it from the wrong side. There's a little tag end that sits in here. You can see the indentation. I wasn't able to hook the indentation from the one side. Back to the main gear then, we seem to have 3 washers. 2 of them are concave and 1 of them is flat. Put the bowl up. Actually, we have 2 flats. Well, in that case, I'm going to put flat. Probably should have taken a picture. I'll put the tension washer, then the other flat washer, and then our plastic washer on top. Now we can reseat this after we put a little bit of grease onto the main gear. We did the same thing here. We wanted to make sure that the main gear is nice and tight. When you go working your main gear, like I'm doing here, keep the tension on that anti-reverse dog. The side case is what's actually going to hold that in place during the regular operation, but without the side plate there, it's going to pop off, and then you're going to have to reseat it. All right, we're in good condition with that. I think we figured out why this one wasn't adjusting tight enough. Let's take our little scrubby and some rod and reel cleaner and just do a little quick buffing here of this while we're at it. So it wasn't the drag washer, it was that little brake somehow got inside the reel there. paper towel, clean up the buffing. And let's go ahead and put this case back on now. You want to make sure that the trip lever that comes out of the case fits in that notch. Align the rest of this with the 2 screw holes on the outside, and if you're having a little bit of difficulty, just push down on that lever to get the case to snap nice and tight. And then you know you did it good if you turn it and it fires back up. Go to your parts tray and get the other 2 pieces. And we'll grab that screw. It happens to be a flat bladed screw. I'm going to use that driver with a little bit of grease on it to hold the screw while I go to install. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in general, leave them in the comments section. I will try to answer them for you. I try to answer them in the morning. And if you're stuck, or maybe you just want to learn a little bit more about a reel, a question in there is the best way to reach me and to get an answer. Some folks try to call on the phone. I do apologize. That's not the most efficient way, so be forewarned. And if I can return the phone calls, I do, but generally that takes a lot longer. All right, we're going to put the star adjuster on next. There's a little bit of dirt on that collar there. Let's get that off while we're at it. Make sure that's nice and shiny. Same thing with the back of this. There's a little bit of dirt, so it doesn't hurt to clean that up while you have the parts off. They're very difficult to clean when the parts are on the reel. And we can do just a little bit more on that with that. So that rod and reel cleaner is kind of a degreaser and a wax, kind of all in one. And what I'm doing right now, I just want to line up. I want to make sure that this goes on square. And I always advise putting this on by hand. That's the best way to do that. And in some cases you may need to hold the bottom shaft here just to give it a spin until you can clear the top and use the handle as a wrench. Well, we're almost there. And that's why I like this micro plier so much. When you do have that set, now you can use the handle as the wrench to tighten it down the rest of the way. And now we have plenty of clearance with this one, so I'm guessing that little break there was the issue. I took the handle off again because we get a little tension washer between the star adjuster and the handle. Now the handle can go back on, and now you can put that E-clip on. You can't put that E-clip on before the handle is installed. So it's kind of the reverse order that you took them off in. I'm just having a little bit of issue with my big hands and small parts. So I'll use our pliers again. You got to fit this into the groove on the bridge. And I find the pliers a great assist if you can't grab it yourself. Once it's in the groove, you can use your hand strength to pick it in. Let's go ahead and put the cap back on. That's an 11mm wrench, so while we were trying to do some things, I went back and found that. And then tighten this down. And you want either the flat to face here or a point to face here in order to get the cap to align properly. A little tie-down collar. I'm going to use the point and the tie-down collar. I almost got it. Fortunately, with these, you can grab it and turn it a little bit because it's a thin cap. And now we have the last of the screws. And for whatever reason, some of these Ambassadors have the Phillips head screws, and somehow they're flat screws. Probably the age of the reel. And this is an early one. And then I'm going to go to that parts tray and put at least the one brake back on. Now that other bearing that I put in there is a sealed bearing, so you don't need to go ahead and oil that one. Nothing in, nothing out on sealed bearings. I did find a replacement brake pad. I'll go ahead and put that in. If you don't have that brake pad, here's a quick tip. Use the straw, coffee stirrer, or in this case, the one from here. Line it up. Most of the time that little hole is pretty close to the diameter of the metal. That's the pins that are coming out of your spool. So I'll go ahead and do that as an alternative so that you have a brake if you use the spool brake. If you want to cast far, remove the spool brakes. A little bit of grease on both sides. Let's go ahead and put that back in. And the only other thing I would want to do here after we give it a quick test is go service the pawl. And that should be the next step. Got a little bit of dirt here on the inners. I'm going to just go ahead and do that. I'm trying to make sure I keep those brakes on. They are slippery. And now we can go a line. And we can set the side case. Make sure that you have a nice tight seam on the side case. Bring that around. Tighten them down by hand as much as you can. I'll come back with the screwdriver and make the final adjustment. And since we have the pawl over on the side here, the carrier, we'll go ahead and remove the cap, service the pawl, and line the worm gear. So if you had serviced everything else and you found that your reel was still performing poorly, this would be the next place to check. You would either check for a tight pawl, or one that's dirty, or one that's broken. And this one has a lot of dirt in it. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but the sides of it, or what I call the shoulders, are just filled with old grease. Well, that will certainly bog down the performance. That has to be cleared off. And I'm using just a micro screwdriver to do that. I notice that there's old grease in the cavity here, which means it's not going to turn easy. So that very well could be a contributing factor to this as well. All right, so we've cleaned it off, we've pulled it off, we've checked the points on this to make sure that the points are uniform. That's what's going to be grabbing in the channel. We can put a little bit of oil into the sleeve, try and get it on the wall. A little bit of oil onto the worm gear. I oil the worm gears, I don't grease them. Some folks write and tell me that they grease theirs, and well, I just believe that if you're not regularly servicing your reel, when that grease dries, things happen to it, like what we just saw on the forks of this pawl. And well, if you can avoid that, you're better for it. This one's not set, push it down. If you don't push it down, or if you push it down and it doesn't set, it means it's not in the track. And if it's not in the track, what you want to do is just kind of move it around, turn it a little bit, start your cap so that you can hold it in, and then reel your reel. Okay, with the line guide tightened, we want to just make that final turn on our gear side plate screws. Drop of oil into the handle knobs. And I guess we're ready for a test, so let's see how we did. First, let's push that in, make sure that the spool is spinning. It is. Make sure that it's tripping. It is. Oh, look at that. So we pretty much restored the performance of this reel. We had to replace the cap. There was missing bearing. We had to replace that. What we haven't been able to do yet, there's a retention clip on this one. There's a little snap ring that holds that bearing firm to the spool and doesn't let it travel back and forth. You can fish it without it, and may have to be if we can't find a replacement clip for that. But overall, we went from one that was skipping. It may have been skipping because, well, when we did the diagnosis, the spool brake was trapped in this cap here, which prevented that from tightening it down, which made it appear that the drag was bad. It wasn't. It was missing this cap and the bearing on this side, so we had to replace that. Overall, you've got a smooth operating reel. There's a little bit of click. I'm noticing that the paint on this side is worn. That had to be worn because of the missing bearing and any turning that was going on there, but the spool seems to be holding true. And well, I think hopefully we've learned something from this. We learned how to take apart a reel, how to diagnose it for problems, how to eliminate certain issues, and how to recognize others, and then of course how to rectify the issues. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. Again, please subscribe if these are the types of videos that you enjoy, because they will keep coming. I'm trying to pass along as much as I know while I still can. So to everybody who's a first responder and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. And to all, please stay safe, stay well, stay curious, stay working on those fishing reels, but more importantly, take them fishing. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day. Okay, sometimes I even surprise myself. I found the snap ring replacement that I didn't know I had. So let's go order some more of these. We want to make sure that we tie this down so that we can hold that bearing in. Push it in, make sure it seals. That should solve the majority of this issue here. Okay, let's give it a try, see how we did. A little over tightened. Okay, as a quick postscript, I was able to find a replacement snap ring to hold that bearing in. So that certainly made things a lot easier and a lot smoother in operation. So I hope you've enjoyed that. This has been a fun project. Thanks for watching.